Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. In today's tutorial, we're making a cable stitch cardigan. By now, y'all already know the drill, so I will keep this brief. We've got cables, we've got texture, shorter sleeves, and a longer bottom band. Just the things you need for a perfect cardigan. Speaking of, if you're feeling this one and you'd like to make more cardigans, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of crochet tutorials and patterns, including several cardigans, with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe so you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For today's project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 630 grams of yarn. That's 1,280 yards if you're stateside. As our tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us your first ever job. Mine was a dance teacher at my local gym. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 6 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, and double treble crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this cardigan started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 5mm hook and start off by making an odd number chain that reaches from mid-chest to the tip of your shoulder. Now it needs to be a minimum of 25 chains, which is what I'm going to do. That's roughly 6 inches or 15 centimeters. But if you need a larger size, add an additional 4 chains to your desired size. So the next chain would be 29, 33, 37, and so on and so forth. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our first row, which is a half double crochet row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's a turning chain. Then we're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double, and then into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. That is our first half double, and continue on with our half double crochet until we reach the end of the row. So now that our row 1 is complete, we're going to get started on our row 2, which is a single crochet row. So we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch. So into that first stitch, insert your hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Continue with 1 single crochet to reach the end of the row, and just as a really quick tip, this row and our row 1 should have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. Alright, so we are back. Our row 2, which was our single crochet row, is complete. Now before we get started on our cable stitch detail, we are all going to need to insert our stitch markers into some places just to help section off what we're going to be doing. So first things first, we're all going to start by inserting our stitch marker into the middle stitch that we have. Now if you guys have my numbers, I inserted my stitch marker into the 13th stitch, but no matter what size we're making, we should all have just 1 middle stitch, since we all should have made an odd number of chains. Then from here, we're going to make sure that our hook is on the right side, and then we're going to start by inserting our first stitch marker into the 4th stitch away from our middle stitch. So making sure that we're not counting that middle stitch, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then insert my stitch marker into there. Then counting in from the hook, we're going to be inserting our next stitch marker into the 3rd stitch from the outer edge. So here's 1, 2, and 3. So the right side of our cable stitch detail is all sectioned off. Let's do the left, which is going to be done somewhat similarly. So taking a look at our middle stitch, what we're going to do is now count the middle stitch and count out towards the left 4 stitches. So making sure that we're counting that middle stitch, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and insert your stitch marker. And then from the outer edge from the left, we're going to now insert our stitch marker into the 4th stitch. So here is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what our work is going to be is our twist, our Alpine stitch detail, and then working our way across our middle stitch marker is our big cable. And then after that, it's basically going to be the same thing but in reverse, so our Alpine stitch detail and then our twist again. But now that everything is all sectioned off, we're all going to start with our row 3 or our first cable stitch row. So let's all start with a chain 2 and flip your work. Each of our cable stitch rows is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So as an example, since we're working on our row 3, we're going to be doing all of our post stitches into our row 1. And we're all going to start with our twist, and this is going to be the same for everyone, and that's going to start with a front post treble crochet. So let's all start with a yarn over of 2. So here's 1, here's 2. Then making sure that we're looking at our row 1, we're going to find the second half double crochet from the edge, making sure that we are not counting that chain 2, because remember that doesn't count as a stitch. So here's my first half double, here's my second. I'm going to insert my hook underneath the body of that second half double crochet now, and bring it through the other side. Then from here we're going to yarn over and pull through, and then to complete this stitch we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2, and we should all have 1 loop left on our hook. Now we're going to be doing another front post treble crochet into the following stitch from our row 1. So again, yarn over twice, and finding the next available half double crochet, we're going to bring our hook underneath, through the other side. Then yarn over and pull through, and again yarn over and pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Then to complete our twist, we're going to do another front post treble crochet into that skipped stitch. So yarn over twice, and bring our hook back into that first half double crochet that we skipped. So we're going to bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, yarn over and pull through, and complete this front post treble per usual. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now that is our first twist all complete. Now the next section we're going to do is our Alpine stitches. So for everyone, we're all going to start our Alpine stitch detail with 1 front post double crochet. So that's going to start with a yarn over of 1. We're going to find that next available half double crochet from our row 1 and bring our hook underneath the body of that stitch, through the other side, then yarn over and pull through. Now when we have these 3 loops on our hook, what we're all going to want to do is pull up nice and tall so we can get the same height as our previous stitches for this row. And once when it's tall, we should have 3 loops on our hook, so we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and then pull through 2. Now for our Alpine stitch detail, we're going to alternate between a front post and a half double crochet, so let's do our half double crochet. We're all going to start by skipping 4 stitches from our previous row and then inserting our hook with a half double crochet into the 5th. We're skipping 4 because we just did a total of 4 stitches here for our 1, 2, 3 stitches for our twist, and then our 1 front post double crochet. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Into that next stitch, insert with a half double. So yarn over. We're going to insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. From here, we're going to continue to alternate between a front post double and half double till we reach our following stitch marker. So let's do this next set again. Yarn over. We are going to skip that following available half double crochet from our row 1 because this half double crochet counts as that half double crochet. So into that next half double, we're going to bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch, pull through, then we're going to pull up nice and tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then it's a half double crochet, so yarn over. We are going to be skipping 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, so into the next, insert with a half double, just like that. Now like I said, we're going to continue to alternate between our front post double and half double crochet until we reach our next stitch marker stitch. Now I actually just have 1 more stitch to do, so I'll do that with you guys. But just as a really quick tip for this Alpine stitch detail for everyone, no matter what size we're making, for our row 3, it's going to start with a front post double and end with a front post double. So I'm going to do my last stitch with you. I'm going to yarn over, finding that next available stitch, bring our hook underneath, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and now I'm all finished up with my Alpine stitch detail because I have reached my next stitch marker stitch. Now we're going to get started on our middle cable stitch detail. Now our middle cable stitch detail is always going to be blocked off with front post treble crochets. So we're going to yarn over twice. We're all going to find that next available stitch from our previous odd number row. Bring your hook underneath, through the other side, and pull through. Then from here, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now to do the actual cable stitch section, what we're all going to do is start with a set of 2 front post double treble crochets. So to get started on our front post double treble, we're going to yarn over 3 times. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. We're all going to skip the following 2 stitches from our previous odd number row, and then put 1 front post double treble into the following 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1, skip 2, into the next, with a front post double treble. So pull through, and then from here we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now that is our first front post double treble. We're going to be doing another one into that following stitch. So again, yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. Underneath the body of that next stitch and through the other side, pull through. Then again, yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now from here, we're going to be putting 1 front post double treble crochet into each of the 2 stitches that we skipped over. So that's going to start with a yarn over of 3 again. And then finding that first skip stitch, we're going to bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, pull through. Then from here, pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. Then another front post double treble crochet into that next skip stitch. So yarn over 3 times again. Into that last available skip stitch, bring your hook underneath and through the other side, pull through. Then pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2. Now to finish up our cable stitch detail, we're all going to be putting 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. So there is a yarn over of 2. Finding that next available stitch, we're going to bring our hook down, through the other side, and pull through. Then yarn over, pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. Then another front post treble crochet into that following stitch. And then lastly, to close off our middle cable stitch detail, like I said, it's always going to be framed with a front post treble crochet. So an additional front post treble crochet into that next stitch. So this is my cable stitch detail all complete. Now we're going to finish up this row with our Alpine stitch detail, and it's going to be done exactly the same way as the first one. So our Alpine stitch detail is going to be the same amount of stitches and the same stitches that we did. So since we started this one off with a front post double crochet, we're going to do this one with a front post double crochet as well. So what we're going to do is yarn over, insert your hook underneath that following stitch, pull through, then we're going to pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then the next stitch is going to be a half double crochet, and we are going to need to skip 10 stitches from our previous row, and that 10 stitches comes from the cable stitch detail that we just did, plus the first and last front post double crochet along the outside of our cable stitch detail. So we're going to count from our previous row. Here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then into that next stitch, which should be the 11th, insert with a half double crochet. Then from here, just continue to alternate between our front post double and half double to reach our next stitch marker. So let's just do the rest of mine together with you. Yarn over. We're going to skip over that next available half double crochet because this half double crochet counts as this one. and then into the next, insert with a front post double. So pull up tall, pull through two, then a half double, so yarn over. Skip that next stitch from our previous row because this front post double counts as that stitch, and then into the next, insert with a half double. And then I just have one more stitch left to do for my Alpine, so front post double for me. We're going to insert, pull through, pull up tall, pull through two, and now our Alpine stitch detail is complete. We should have the same amount of stitches as our first Alpine stitch detail, just to double check, and now we're going to close off our row with another twist. Now our twists are always going to be done the same way, so let's get started with that. It's going to start with a front post treble crochet, so yarn over twice. We're all going to skip that following stitch from our previous odd number row, and then into the next, insert with one front post treble, then into that following stitch with another front post treble, then to do the twist portion, yarn over twice, put one front post treble into that stitch that we skipped over, and now that this twist is finished, just to make sure that everything is secured down, we are all going to put one half double crochet into the last stitch from our previous row. So yarn over. Into that last stitch, just insert with one half double. And now this row is complete. So this is what the completed row 3 should be looking like for everyone. We should all have the same amount of stitches as our previous row. Now for this cable stitch detail, everyone's even number row is going to be a single crochet row. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain one, flip our work, and then put one single crochet into every stitch, and I'll meet you back when we're about to get started on our row 4. We are back. Our row 4 is complete. Now let's get started on our row 5, so let's all chain 2 and flip. Now a few tips before we get started. Like I said in one of our previous clips, each of our cable stitch details is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on a row 5, I'm going to be inserting my post stitches into my row 3. So getting this started, it's going to start with our twist, and our twist is always going to be done exactly the same way. So what we're all going to do is chain. So what we're all going to do is yarn over twice. Taking a look at our previous odd number row, we are going to skip that first stitch, and then underneath that next stitch, we're going to do a front post treble. So bring your hook down, underneath the body of that stitch, and through the other side. Then we're all going to yarn over and pull through. When we have these 4 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now we're going to be doing another front post treble into that following stitch, so yarn over twice again, underneath that next stitch, through the other side, and pull through. Now from here, when we have these 4 loops on our hook, again, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Then to do our twist, we're going to yarn over twice, preparing for a front post treble. Then into that stitch that we skipped, we're going to bring our hook back, underneath the body of that stitch, through the other side, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 till we all have 1 loop left on our hook again. And that is our twist. Now when it comes to doing our Alpine stitch detail, every Alpine stitch detail, the stitches need to be staggered from our previous row. So as an example, my last Alpine stitch detail started with a front post double crochet. So this one is going to start with a half double crochet. So getting this one started, we're all going to skip 3 stitches from our previous row, and we're skipping 3 because we just did our twist. So here's 1, 2, 3, into that next stitch, which should be the top of that front post double crochet. We're all going to insert with a half double. Then to do our front post double, it's going to be worked into our previous Alpine stitch details half double crochet, and that is an always to get the texture that we want. So yarn over, finding the half double crochet from our previous row, which should be right underneath the stitch that we're working into. We're going to bring our hook underneath the body, through the other side, and pull through. And remember, when we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're always going to pull up tall to make sure that we get the same height. Then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now there's our first set of stitches completed for our Alpine stitch detail. Let's do this again. So yarn over. We're going to start with a half double crochet, and we always want to skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch. So into the following, insert with a half double, and then to do our front post double, yarn over, finding that next stitch from our previous Alpine stitch detail, which should be a half double crochet. We're all going to bring our hook underneath, through the other side and pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2 and pull through 2, and just continue this until we're ready to do our cable stitch detail. Now I actually just have one more left to do, so yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet, skip 1 stitch from our previous row and into the next, insert with a half double. And now from here we'll work on top of our last Alpine stitch, and now we're going to do our framing stitch for our cable, which is a front post treble crochet. So that's going to start with a yarn over of 2. We're going to bring our hook down underneath that stitch, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 till we all have 1 loop left on our hook. And that is our front post treble crochet completed. Now to get started on our actual cable stitch detail, we're going to yarn over twice, and then finding the following 2 stitches, we're all going to start with 1 front post treble crochet into each of those following stitches. So finding that first stitch, bring your hook underneath and through the other side and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. So pull through 2, 2, 2. Then from here, another front post treble crochet into the following, so yarn over twice. Bring your hook underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, and pull through, then pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. Now once we have that, we're going to get started on the twist portion of our big cable stitch detail. So that's going to start with a set of 2 front post double treble crochets. So again, yarn over 3 times. We're going to skip the following 2 stitches from our previous cable stitch row, and then put 1 front post double treble into the following 2 stitches after that. So we're going to skip 1, skip 2, into the next with 1 front post double treble, and then into the next with another front post double treble. Now that we have that, to finish off our cable stitch detail, we're going to be doing a set of 2 front post double treble crochets into the 2 skip stitches, but now working into that window that we just made for ourselves. So what we're going to do is start with a yarn over of 3. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. What we're going to do is hang on to our working yarn, and we're going to pull our hook down towards us, finding those 2 skip stitches in through that window. So bring your hook down, and in through that window we're going to find 1 and 2. Inserting your hook underneath that first skip stitch, we're going to bring our hook down, through the other side, and pull through. Then from here, pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook. And now that we have that, we have 1 more front post double treble crochet to do to finish up this cable. So yarn over 3 times again. Hang on to your working yarn, bring our hook down towards us, finding that last skipped stitch. So underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, pull through. Then again, pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. And now that is what our cable stitch detail should be looking like. We're always going to frame off our cable stitch detail with a front post treble crochet, so yarn over twice, finding that next stitch, bring your hook down, pull through, and pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. And now the cable stitch detail is actually complete. Now the next section we're going to do is our Alpine stitch detail, and the second Alpine stitch detail is always going to be the same as the first. So this one started with a half double, so this one's going to start with a half double as well. So what we're going to do is start by skipping 8 stitches from our previous row. We're skipping 8 because of the cable stitch detail that we just did. So all together, starting from our last available stitch, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then into that next stitch, insert with a half double, just like that. And then to do our front post double, we're going to yarn over, finding the half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch detail, bring your hook underneath the body of that stitch, through the other side and pull through, then pull through 2, pull through 2. Then we're just going to continue on with our half double and front post double until we reach our last twist to do. Now my Alpine stitch detail is complete. I have the same amount of stitches as my first Alpine stitch detail. Now we're going to close off the row with our twists. So again, we're going to yarn over. Our twists are going to be done exactly the same. We're going to skip that first stitch and then into the next. Start with one front post treble crochet. Then into that next, another front post treble. Then to finish off this section, one front post treble crochet into that stitch that we skipped over. So insert, pull through. There we go. Then just to finish up this row, one half double crochet into the last stitch from our previous row just to secure everything down. So our row 5 is now complete. Now like I said, every even number row is going to be a single crochet row. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and then I'll meet you back. So we are back. Our row 6 is now complete. So let's flip our work over to see what we're looking at. So our rows 1 through 6 are complete. Now for the height of this piece, we're going to repeat rows 3 through 6 until we get the height that we need. So I'm actually just going to get started on a row 7 with you just to make sure that we have the basics down, and then I will meet you guys back. So since we're about to get started on a cable stitch row, let's all chain 2 and flip. So really quickly, like I said, each of our cable stitch rows is going to be worked into our previous cable stitch row. So since we're working on row 7, we're going to insert our hook into row 5 for all of our post stitches. So just to do the twist together, that's always going to be the same. We're going to yarn over twice, skip that first stitch from our previous cable stitch row, making sure that we are not counting that chain 2, and then bring our hook underneath with our first front post treble crochet, a front post treble crochet into that next stitch, and then a front post treble crochet into that stitch that we skipped over. And now that our twist is complete, the rest of this is going to be a complete repeat of our row 3. So as a refresher for our Alpine stitch detail, it's going to start with a front post double crochet. Since we need our stitches to be staggered from our previous Alpine stitch detail, then it's going to be a repeat of row 3's big cable, and then continue on with the rest of the row. Now if you need timestamps for any of these sections, they will all be linked in the description. But all we're going to do from here is, like I said, repeat rows 3 through 6 until we get the height of the piece that we want. So placing this first row right where we'd like the bottom of this cardigan to be, but keeping in mind that you will have a bottom band as well, so you can make this cropped or full length, that's completely up to you. And we're going to continue this until this portion reaches all the way up to mid-chest. Then I will meet you guys back right after we finish up a single crochet row, and we're about to get started on a repeat of row 3. Alright, so we are back. I have just finished up the height of my front panel. So this reaches from the bottom of where I want my cardigan to be all the way up to mid-chest. I have a total of 42 rows, and this height is roughly 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to get started on our neckline. So the neckline portion is going to be fairly simple. We're going to continue on with our repeats of row 3 through 6, but we are going to do a decrease of 2 at the end of the row, just so that it can slant around our neck. So what we're going to do, since we all should have ended right after a single crochet row, we're all going to get started on the following row, which it should be a repeat of row 3 for everyone. So continue on with our row 3, making our way all the way down, leaving the last 3 stitches, and that would be the second to last front post treble, that last front post treble, and our last half double crochet, and then I'll meet you guys back. So we are back. We made our way all the way down with our repeat of row 3. Everyone's last stitch should have been a front post treble crochet into our 4th to last stitch, and we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. Now what we're going to do is a front post treble crochet that is a decrease. So how that's going to work is we're all going to start with the yarn over of 2. Now into that 3rd and 2nd to last stitch, which are our 2 post stitches from our previous odd number row, we're just going to bring our hook underneath both of those stitches. So here's my 1st, and then underneath that 2nd as well. And then just do our regular front post treble crochet per usual. So everything is the same. We're just inserting our hook underneath 2 stitches instead of 1. Then from here, we're going to close off the row with a half double crochet because we still need to secure everything down. And that is now our decrease. We're going to decrease into the following row as well, so we're all going to start with a chain 1 and flip. Now it's still going to be a single crochet row, but we're going to start it with a decrease, so insert your hook into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through all 3, and then continue with 1 single crochet into the rest of our stitches. Now we can get started on our following cable stitch row, so chain 2 and flip. And now for everyone, this should be a repeat of our row 5. So do your repeat of our row 5's cable, making our way all the way down. Again, leaving the last 3 stitches. Now that is going to be our second to last front post treble, our last front post treble, which was actually our decrease from our previous cable stitch row, and then our half double crochet. We've made our way down with our row 5, leaving the last 3 stitches. Now we're going to do another decrease. Our decrease is going to be a decrease of 2 front post treble crochets always at the end of the row. So what we're going to do is yarn over twice. Inserting your hook underneath that third to last and second to last stitch, both of them, we're going to pull through, then pull through 2, 2, 2, then to close off the row, 1 half double crochet into the last stitch. Now, our third decrease row is complete. Let's just get started on the next one, which is a single crochet row, so chain 1, flip your work, start your following row off with a decrease of 2 singles, and then put 1 single crochet into the rest of our stitches, then I'll meet you back. Alright, so we are back. Our fourth row for our decrease portion is complete. Now all we're going to do from here is basically repeat our 4 previous rows until we have a portion that can reach from mid-chest, making sure that our stitch marker stays at mid-chest all the way up till we reach the top of our shoulder. And the rows are basically just going to be the same, repeats of rows 3 through 6, but for every cable stitch row, we're going to close it off with a decrease of 2 front post treble crochets, then a half double crochet to secure everything down, and then every even number row is going to start with a decrease of 2 singles, and then 1 single crochet into the rest of our stitches. I'll meet you back once we have the height of this portion completed, right after a cable stitch row, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back. Alright, so I am back. The neckline of my front panel is complete. I now have a total of 65 rows and my total length is now 19.5 inches or 49 centimeters. And now this side of our front panel is complete. So we're all going to get started on the other side. So what we're going to do to get started on the other side of our front panel is start by making the same amount of chains that we made when we got started on this side. Then we're going to do our same twist, alpine cable, alpine twist, for the same amount of rows, making our way all the way up until we're ready to start doing our decreases. So once we have the same amount of rows as this portion, I will meet you guys back and then we can do the decreases together. So we are back. Now that we have the same amount of rows as our first front panel portion, we're now going to get started on our decrease. Now the decreases are going to be the same general idea. The only difference is that the decreases are going to be at the beginning of the row instead of at the end because our cable stitch detail isn't reversible. So let's get started on this side. So we're all going to chain 2 and flip. So basically, instead of ending the row with a decrease of 2, we're going to start the row with a decrease of 2 front post trebles. So all we're going to do is yarn over twice. Taking a look at the first 2 stitches that we have from our previous cable stitch row, here's 1, here's 2. I'm going to insert my hook underneath both of those stitches, pull through, and then that is our decrease of 2 front post treble crochets. Then from here we're going to continue on with our repeat of row 3 until we reach the end of the row. Alright, so now that our first decrease row is complete, we're going to do our following single crochet row. So from where we're at, chain 1, flip your work, put 1 single crochet into every stitch, and then do a decrease of 2 into the last 2 stitches. So our single crochet row is complete. Let's just do the following 2 rows just to make sure we got everything down, and I'll let you do the rest on your own. So chain 2 and flip. So pretty much the same way that we started our previous cable stitch row, it's going to start with a decrease of 2 front post treble crochets. So yarn over twice, finding the first and second stitch from our previous cable row. We're going to bring our hook underneath, pull through, and then do a regular front post treble. And then now we're going to continue on with the rest of our row. So we've made our way all the way down with our third decrease row. Now we're going to get started on our following single crochet row, and it's going to be done pretty much the same way as our previous one. So chain 1, flip your work, 1 single crochet goes into every stitch with a decrease of 2 into the last. So we are back. Our fourth decrease row is complete. Now all we're going to do from here is basically repeat our 4 previous rows until we have the same amount of rows as our right neckline. Do not do a chain up of 1 and cut because we can work straight into the side panel from there. So we are back. I have just finished up my neckline for my left side. Now from here, I did not do a chain up of 1 and cut like I said, and now we're just going to do our side panel, and that's going to be fairly simple. We're all going to start with the chain 1 and flip our work because we're going to start with a single crochet row along the edge of our piece. So what we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, but we're all going to start with 2 single crochets into the first side row because it's our cable stitch row, so it's a little bit taller. So all we're going to do is find that first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1. Into that same top loop, there is 2. Now again, finding my next side row, it's going to be this little, I guess, cluster, what we can call it right here, but it's going to be our side single crochet row. So we're just going to find that little chunk, find that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet. Let's do this again. This is my following side row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 because it's my side cable stitch row. Then we're going to find our following side row, which is this little chunk right here. Find that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down. Alrighty, so our single crochet row is complete. Now for the rest of the side panel, we're just going to be doing back loop half double crochet rows without any increases or decreases. So it's going to be super duper simple. We're just going to get the first row started together. So we're all going to chain 2 and flip. Like I said, all we're going to do is back loop half double, so yarn over. Finding that first stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert our hook into that back loop. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do that again. Yarn over. Into that next stitch's back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. Pull through all 3, and that's basically it. From here, we're going to continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2. Flip our work and then put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch again, and like I said, this portion isn't going to have any increases or decreases. So we're going to continue on with our back loop half double crochet rows until we now have a shoulder portion that can reach 2 inches past the tip of our shoulder. Once we have this completed, I will meet you guys back just to show you guys where we're going to be inserting a hook to do the other side panel. Alright, so we are back. I have just finished up the side panel, and I have a total of 6 rows. This width is roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters, or the total width that I have is roughly 9 inches or 23 centimeters. Now after my last row, I did do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now we're going to repeat everything that we did here on the other side, and I already have mine completed, so now I'm just going to show you where we're going to be inserting our hook. So when it comes to doing the side panel for the right side of our piece, we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the bottom corner of our cable stitch detail. So inserting your hook into the bottom corner stitch, we're going to start with our single crochet row that alternates between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, and then the rest of this is just going to be the same amount of back loop half double crochet rows as the other panel. We're inserting our hook into this side because we want to show the front of our single crochet row just to make everything as pretty as possible. And then once we have the same amount of rows, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then I'll meet you guys back to do one more thing for the front panels, then we can get started on the back. So once when both of our front panels are complete, all we're going to do is single crochet across the tops of the front panels. So we're going to get started on one of them first. We're going to start by making sure that our cable stitch detail is faced up towards us, and then we're going to be inserting our hook into the top corner stitch. Then we're going to be working into our side half double crochet rows first. So from here, all we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side half double crochet row. So we're going to pull our working yarn through and start with a chain of 1. And we're going to start by finding our first side row. This is mine right here, so I'm going to find this top loop and insert into that top loop with just 1 single crochet. Then this is my following side row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then into that same top loop with a second single crochet, and that's it. Continue to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side half double crochet row. Then we're going to have 1 side single crochet row, put 1 single crochet into the top of that row, and then to finish off the row, 1 single crochet into every stitch until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat everything we did here on the other side. So we are back, and we have just finished up single crocheting across the top of our front panel, And now we're going to get started on our back. So getting started on our back panel, we're all going to start by making a chain for the same amount of stitches that we have for our last side panel row for the front panel. Now for those of you that have my numbers, I had a total of 98 stitches. So getting started on my back panel, I'm going to make a chain of 98. But I actually already have my back panel finished up, so I'm going to be doing a small sample size with you. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. Now that chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then we're going to do a half double crochet row. So into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, we're going to insert with a half double crochet. Then from here, 1 half double crochet into the rest of our chain. Now that our row 1 is complete, the rest of our rows are just going to be back loop half double crochets with no increases and no decreases. So we're all going to start with a chain 2, flip our work, and then 1 back loop half double into every stitch, so yarn over. Into that first stitch is back loop, insert, pull through 3, again, yarn over, next stitch is back loop, pull through 3, and that's it. Like I said, continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and then repeat. We're going to continue on with our back loop half double crochet row with no increases and no decreases until we have a panel that can stretch from 2 inches past the tip of our shoulder, across our back, past 2 inches past the tip of our other shoulder, making sure that we're holding this up vertically. Alright, so I am back. The width of my back panel is complete. Now I have a total of 49 rows. My width is roughly 17.5 inches or 44 centimeters. And now from here, we're just going to single crochet across the top of our piece. So this is going to be pretty simple. All we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, making our way all the way across. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back so we can seam everything together. Alright, so our single crochet row across the top of our back panel is complete. I did do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now we're ready to seam the shoulders together. So what we're all going to do is start by placing our front panel on top of our back panel, making sure that the cable stitch detail for the front panel is faced inwards so that our seams can be along the inside when we flip our work right side out. Then we're going to make sure that our half double crochet edges are aligned, aka the neckline is along the inside of our piece. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. We are then going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And this portion is going to be pretty simple. It's going to be a single crochet seam. So just working into both the front and the back panel at the same time, we're going to do a single crochet row. So start by finding that next stitch into the front panel, then find that next stitch into the back panel, insert, and if you're like me, you don't wish to weave in your tail ends later, just place those over your hook. And then we're going to single crochet around everything. Let's do this again. Into the next stitch, into the front panel, next stitch into the back panel, and single crochet, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then we're going to repeat everything we did here on the other side. So now that our shoulder is all seamed up, the next thing we're going to do is seam the sides. So first things first, we're all going to need to insert our stitch marker into any stitch from the top, the width that we'd like for our armhole to be, and it does need to be in multiples of 3. So I went ahead and inserted my stitch marker into the 33rd stitch from the top. That's roughly 7 inches or 18 centimeters. And then we're going to start by inserting our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then we're going to do the same seam that we did for the shoulder. Alrighty, so everything is all seamed up. The next thing we're going to do is our bottom band. So we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to start with a single crochet row. So insert your hook into any one of the corner stitches along the bottom of our piece. And we're going to start with 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then once we reach our side half double crochet rows, just alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, making our way all the way around. And then I'll meet you guys back at this corner over here. So we've made our way all the way around with our single crochet row. Now from here, we're going to get started on the length of our bottom band. Now I'd like for my bottom band to be roughly 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making a chain of 17. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to do a double crochet row back down. So block off that last chain and do a chain 3. That chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then yarn over, preparing for a double crochet. Insert your hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the 4th chain from our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and continue with 1 double crochet into every chain. We've now put 1 double crochet into every chain. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So we're all going to start by counting out the next 2 available stitches. So there's 1, and then there's 2. Into that 2nd stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch, and now this row is completed, and now we're going to work our way up to the following row. So it's just going to be a back loop double crochet row repeat. So in order to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch into the following 2 stitches into the base. So there's 1, and then also there's 2. Now none of those slip stitches into the base count as a stitch, and now we're going to flip our work and put 1 back loop double crochet into every stitch. So just to do the first one, yarn over, find that first stitch from our previous row, and making sure that we're not worked into any of those slip stitches into the base. We're going to insert with our first back loop double crochet, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around, and when we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Alright, so I am back. The bottom band is completed. Now we're going to work on the front band. So what we're all going to do is start with a single crochet row, working our way all the way up and around the neckline, and then back down to the other corner. So this is going to be a pretty big row. What we're all going to do is start by inserting our hook into the bottom corner stitch of our bottom band. Then we're going to start with 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then once we have any side rows, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, and then working into the side of our cable stitch detail. We're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets, starting with 2 single crochets into the first side row, and that first side row should be a cable stitch row. Then we're just going to continue to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. Once we reach the back portion, we should already have stitches into the top of the back, so just 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then continue to make your way all the way down until we reach the bottom corner stitch, and then I'll meet you guys back to get started on the length of our front band. Alright, so we are back. Our single crochet row along the entirety of our piece is complete. Now we're basically going to do the same thing that we did for the bottom band, but for the front band. So since we should all have our hook into the bottom corner stitch still, all we're going to do is just make a chain for the length that we'd like for the front band to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 6. Then we're going to do a double crochet row back, connect it into the base the same way that we did for the bottom band, then continue on with our back loop double crochet rows, make our way all the way up and around, and then until we reach this bottom corner stitch on this side. Once we reach that stitch, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I will meet you back. So now that the front band is complete, we're going to complete this piece with our sleeve. So first things first, we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, then insert a hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our side seam within the armhole. Then what we're going to do from here is make a chain the length that we'd like for our sleeve to be, that is including the cable stitch detail that we're going to have at the edge of the sleeve as well. And you can make this 3/4 or long sleeve. I'd like for mine to be 3/4, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 35, and that's 9 inches or 23 centimeters for me. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to do a half double crochet row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then from here, we're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet, and into that chain that we blocked off, or the 3rd chain from our hook, we're going to insert with our first half double. So insert, pull through all 3. And from here, continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. So we've just made our way down to the first half double crochet row. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, we're going to insert our hook to the left or clockwise because this cable stitch detail isn't reversible. So what we're going to do is start by counting up the next 2 available stitches. So here's 1, here's 2, and slip stitch into that 2nd stitch into the base. Now that slip stitch into the base does not count as a stitch, we just needed to connect it. Then to work our way up to the following row, which is another half double crochet row, we're going to slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base. Still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. And for our row 2, it's going to be 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. So yarn over and inserting our hook into the last stitch from our previous row, not into any of the slip stitches, into the base. 1 back loop half into every stitch. Alright, so everyone's row 2 is complete. So let's all get started on our row 3. So we're all going to chain 2 and flip. Now we're all going to get started with our cable stitch detail that's going to be shown for the sleeve. So basically same rules apply as our cable stitch detail for the front panels. We're going to start with a front post treble crochet. This is going to be the same for every size. Every cable stitch row is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on row 3, insert our hook into row 1. So finding the first half double crochet from row 1, making sure that it's not that chain 2, we're going to bring our hook down underneath the body of that stitch, pull through, and finish off our front post treble crochet per usual. Now we're going to do a twist. It's going to be the same twist that we did for the front panel. So again, yarn over twice. Skip that following stitch from our row 1 into that next stitch, put 1 front post double treble crochet, and then another front post double treble into that following stitch. Then to finish up the twist portion, 1 front post double treble into that stitch that we skipped over. And now that the twist is complete, we're going to finish off this detail with another front post treble. So just into that following stitch with another front post treble crochet, and that's it. From here, we're going to continue on with our back loop half double crochets. So we're going to be skipping 5 stitches from our previous row because we just took up a total of 5 stitches for this detail. So together, let's count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Into that 6th stitch, we're going to start with a back loop, half double crochet, and from here continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into the rest of our stitches. And as a really quick tip, since we aren't doing any increases or decreases, we should all have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made when we got started on our sleeve. We are back and our row 3 is nearly complete. Now from here we're going to connect it into the base the same way that we just did. So as a refresher, we're going to slip stitch into that 2nd stitch into the base. So here's 1, here's 2, slip stitch into that 2nd stitch to close off this odd number row. Then to work our way up to our following row, we're just going to slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. None of those slip stitches count as a stitch, and flip our work. Then from here, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. We are back. We should all have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows completed. Now it's going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 4, so let's just get started on the following row together. So we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. So just as a really quick refresher, we're all going to start with a front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice. Finding that first front post treble crochet from our previous odd number row, we're going to bring our hook down underneath the body with our first front post treble. Then to do our twist, yarn over twice, skip that first stitch, insert your hook underneath the next with 1 front post treble, another front post treble into the following, and then 1 front post treble into that skip stitch. Then a front post treble into that edge stitch. And now our twist detail is complete. Now just to finish up this row, we're all going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into the 6th stitch from our previous row. So skipping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the 6 with 1 back loop half double crochet, and that's it. 1 back loop half double crochet into the rest of our stitches, and we're going to connect them into the base the same way that we've been doing this entire time. And then from here, just continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, I will meet you guys back so we can seam it all together. Alrighty, so we are back. We've made our way all the way around with our sleeve. We don't have any more stitches left to work into the base, and now we're going to seam it together. But as you guys can see, I have already seamed my sleeve together. All we're going to do is a single crochet seam. So the same seam that we did for the sides and the shoulder. So I'm just going to talk you guys through it. First things first, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. Then we're going to single crochet working into both the front and the back panel at the same time. Continue on with that until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you guys back so we can get started on the cuff. So for the cuff, we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out now. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into any one of the side rows that we have along the edge of our sleeve. Then from here, we're going to put 1 single crochet into every side row that we have. So let's get that started. We're all going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And just to do the first one, we're all going to start by finding our first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet. Let's do this again. Into our next side row, find that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet. And just as a really quick tip, that top loop that we are going to be working our single crochets into is never going to be our front post treble crochets because we want that to be seen within the sleeve. We're just going to continue on with our single crochet row, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, slip stitch into that chain space, and then I will meet you back. We are back. Our single crochet row is complete. Now we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our cuff to be. Now I'd like for mine to be roughly 3 inches or 8 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 8. And now that we have our chain, we're all going to do a slip stitch row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and then into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're all going to insert with a slip stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. Let's do this again. Into that next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, and gently pull through everything. And that's it. We're going to continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain, and we do want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row is going to be a little too tight to work into. Now that we've put 1 slip stitch into every chain, we're now going to connect it into the base. So finding that next available stitch into the base, all we're going to do is slip stitch into there to connect this row, and that slip stitch into the base does not actually count as a stitch. Then we're going to work our way up to the following row, so slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, flip our work, and now we're going to put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So just finding that first stitch from our previous row, not into any of those slip stitches into the base. We're going to insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. Then yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. Again, into that next stitch's back loop, yarn over and pull through everything. And remembering not to tug too tightly, we're going to continue this to reach the end of the row. Now when we reach the end of the row, we're going to chain 1, flip our work. Put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the base just once more. Now that we have our first 3 rows completed, we're just going to connect it into the base. So just start by finding that next stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. Now this row is complete. Then slip stitch into that next stitch into the base to work our way up to the following row. None of those slip stitches into the base count as a stitch. Flip our work and then repeat. So 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. And that's it. From here, we're just going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, I'll meet you guys back so we can seam it all up together. Alrighty, so we are back. We've made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. Now we're going to seam it together. Now this seam is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam. So getting this started, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out. Then we're going to be inserting our hook into both the corner stitch, both the front and the back panel. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through everything. Now let's get this started. Let's all start by finding that first stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. Then find that next stitch into the back panel and insert only into that back loop. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Again, into that next stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop, yarn over and pull through all 3, and that's it. We're actually just going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then we're going to repeat on the other side. So we are back. Both of our sleeves are completed, and now we are all done. The last thing we're going to have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope you all enjoyed the tutorial. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!